The phrase eclipse season can sound dramatic, as though we are entering an unusual or dangerous period. But eclipse seasons are actually a regular part of the relationship between the sun, moon, and earth. The moon orbits Earth on a path that is slightly tilted in relation to the apparent path of the sun across the sky, known as the ecliptic. Because of this tilt, most new moons and full moons don't produce eclipses. The sun, moon, and earth may appear aligned by zodiac sign, but they are not aligned closely enough in space for one body to cast its shadow upon another. About twice a year, however, the sun moves close to the lunar nodes, the 2 points where the moon's orbit crosses the ecliptic. The sun, moon, and earth can then line up more precisely, creating an eclipse season. An eclipse season lasts, on average, about 34.5 days. During that time, we normally experience at least one solar eclipse and one lunar eclipse, separated by approximately 2 weeks. On August 12th, 2026, we experience a total solar eclipse at 20 degrees, 2 minutes of Leo. We could view a solar eclipse as a new moon on steroids. Like every new moon, it represents the beginning of a new cycle. But a solar eclipse intensifies that process, potentially making a big reset in the area of life it activates. A new beginning, however, cannot always enter a life that is already full. So we must make space for the new chapter. This means that an eclipse beginning may be preceded by an ending, releasing, disruption, or simple recognition that something can no longer continue in the same form. The ending is not necessarily a punishment or a fearful omen by any stretch of the imagination. It may be the necessary clearing that allows a more authentic direction to emerge. Eclipses can be especially significant when their degree closely contacts a planet angle or sensitive aspect in the birth chart. So when an eclipse activates points, it can act as a catalyst, inviting us to grow beyond an established identity and move more deeply into our true individual nature. This eclipse occurs near the South Node in Leo, drawing attention to familiar qualities and patterns that may have become exaggerated, automatic, or limiting in some way. Leo represents creativity, confidence, leadership, visibility, and the courage to express what lives within the heart. At its best, Leo shines from an authentic connection with the self. Its shadow, however, can become overly concerned with recognition, performance, drama, or the need to appear important. The Sabian symbol for this eclipse is intoxicated chickens dizzily flap their wings trying to fly. It's a strange and humorous image, but it carries an important message. The chickens feel exhilarated, expanded, and convinced that they can fly. But their excitement has exceeded their actual capacity. They are flapping wildly without direction, balance, or sufficient preparation. This symbol speaks to premature expansion, the experience of encountering powerful ideas, spiritual energies, attention, or possibilities before we're ready to integrate them. We may become intoxicated by our own enthusiasm. We may mistake excitement for clarity, confidence for competence, or visibility for genuine authority. Collectively, the symbol may speak to inflated promises, dramatic performances, charismatic personalities, and ideas that spread quickly without being grounded in reality. But this doesn't mean we shouldn't stop trying to fly. The deeper message is to become sober enough to understand what real flight demands. Authentic Leo does not need to prove its brilliance. It creates from the heart, leads through courage, generosity, and integrity, not spectacle. This eclipse asks us to release the performance and examine where we are seeking admiration, projecting confidence we have not yet embodied, or reaching beyond our readiness. Aquarius, as the polarity, reminds us that our light is not ours alone. Our gifts become meaningful when they contribute to something larger. The invitation is not to stop shining, but to distinguish true radiance from intoxicated performance, to become grounded, strengthen our wings, and allow genuine creative authority to emerge. Now, the Leo solar eclipse may affect each zodiac sign quite differently. So to understand which part of your life this eclipse may activate, listen for your rising sign or your sun sign. Your rising sign will show the house in which the eclipse falls when using whole sign houses. So it may offer the clearest indication of the life area being emphasized. Your sun sign can provide another helpful layer of meaning. These are not fixed predictions. They are possibilities to reflect upon as the eclipse brings Leo themes of identity, creativity, confidence, visibility, and leadership into a particular area of your life. Aries. For Aries, this eclipse falls in the 5th house of creativity, romance, pleasure, children, and self-expression. A new creative chapter may be trying to emerge. You may feel inspired to take a risk, share your gifts, pursue romance, or reconnect with what brings you joy. But remember the image of the intoxicated chickens. Enthusiasm can be energizing, but be careful not to confuse attention with genuine creative fulfillment. Let your confidence grow from the pleasure of creating, rather than from any need to be rewarded or applauded. Taurus. For Taurus, this eclipse falls in the 4th house of home, family, ancestry, and emotional foundations. Changes may be developing within your home life or family relationships. You may feel ready to create a living environment that reflects who you are now rather than who you have been expected to be. The caution is not to make dramatic decisions simply because emotions are heightened. Strengthen your inner foundation before attempting to build something new upon it. Gemini. For Gemini, this eclipse falls in the 3rd house of communication, learning, writing, siblings, and your immediate environment. You may feel inspired to speak more boldly, begin a writing or teaching project, learn something new, or communicate an idea that has been waiting for expression. The Sabian symbol cautions against speaking from excitement alone. Before announcing a grand plan or sharing every new realization, allow your ideas time to become clear, thoughtful, and grounded. Cancer. For Cancer, this eclipse falls in the 2nd house of money, possessions, values, self-worth, and personal resources. A new financial direction or deeper understanding of your value may begin to emerge. You may feel called to earn, spend, or use your talents in ways that reflect greater confidence. Be mindful of spending to impress others or making financial promises based on temporary optimism. Authentic self-worth does not need to be performed or proven. Leo. For Leo, this eclipse falls in the first house of identity, appearance, vitality, and personal direction. This can represent a significant personal reset. You may feel ready to change how you present yourself, begin a new chapter, or become more visible as the person you are becoming. The central question is whether your confidence is rooted in authenticity or in the need for recognition. You don't need to exaggerate who you are. Allow a truer identity to emerge naturally. Virgo. For Virgo, this eclipse falls in the 12th house of rest, endings, solitude, spirituality, and unconscious patterns. This may be a quieter, more inward eclipse for you. Something may be completing behind the scenes, inviting you to withdraw, rest, reflect, or release an identity you have outgrown. Be cautious of spiritual or emotional escapism. The goal is not to fly away from ordinary life, but to create enough inner stillness to recognize what your deeper self is trying to reveal. Libra. For Libra, this eclipse falls in the 11th house of friendship, community, audiences, collaboration, and future aspirations. You may step into a more visible role within a group or feel inspired by a new goal for the future. Friendships and communities may change as you become clearer about where you belong. Avoid chasing popularity or trying to impress a group that doesn't truly reflect your values. Seek connections that support authentic creativity and a meaningful shared purpose. Scorpio. For Scorpio, this eclipse falls in the 10th house of career, reputation, leadership, and public life. A new professional direction, leadership, opportunity, or desire for greater recognition may arise. You may feel ready to become more visible or claim greater authority within your work. The caution is not to make promises that exceed your capacity or pursue status for its own sake. Build a public role that is supported by preparation, integrity, and genuine competence. Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, this eclipse falls in the 9th house of beliefs, travel, higher education, teaching, publishing, and the search for meaning. A new philosophy, educational path, spiritual direction, or desire to share your knowledge may begin to take shape. Remain curious. The intoxicated chickens warn against becoming so excited by a new idea that you mistake inspiration for complete understanding. Allow experience, study, and humility to deepen your vision. Capricorn. For Capricorn, this eclipse falls in the 8th house of intimacy, trust, shared finances, debt, inheritance, grief, and psychological transformation. A new chapter may be unfolding in how you share emotional or material resources with others. Issues involving trust, vulnerability, or financial entanglements may require greater honesty. Avoid becoming swept up in someone else's promises, charisma, or emotional intensity. Examine what is sustainable before committing your energy, money, or heart. Aquarius. For Aquarius, this eclipse falls in the 7th house of partnerships, close relationships, contracts, and collaboration. A relationship may enter a new phase, or you may attract someone who embodies strong Leo qualities, confidence, creativity, warmth, or visibility. Be careful not to become dazzled by charisma alone. Whether in love or business, look beneath appearances and ask whether the relationship supports mutual respect, authenticity, and growth. Pisces. For Pisces, this eclipse falls in the 6th house of work, health, routines, responsibilities, and service to others. You may feel inspired to reinvent your daily life, begin a health practice, take on a new role, or bring more creativity and leadership into your work. The Sabian symbol cautions against taking on too much too quickly. Excitement can lead to overcommitment and exhaustion. So create routines that strengthen your wings rather than requiring you to flap them constantly. So, in closing, wherever this eclipse falls in your chart, it may awaken a desire to express yourself more fully. But the Sabian symbol reminds us that enthusiasm must be supported by preparation, self-awareness, and grounding. The question is not simply, where do I want to fly? It's also, what must I develop within myself so that I am truly ready to leave the ground? If you'd like to go deeper into where this eclipse is landing in your chart, please feel free to book a reading with me at kimpowellart.com. And I'm wishing you all much peace and love.